Right, guys, this is a continuation of the last two lessons on bacteria. At this stage, as you know, we have looked at the structure of bacteria. So we should all be able to draw out the fact there is a cell wall, there's a cell membrane, there's a ribosomes, there's cytoplasm, just like every other cell. But then there's other parts, of course, as well, like the capsid layer, the DNA in the middle that just floats about. We have got the plasmid, of course, and sometimes flagella as well. We also looked at, for example, the different types of bacteria. So there's spherical, rod-shaped. There's spiral shaped, and we've looked at examples. We've kind of touched on the benefits of bacteria and their harmful effects, and I want you to think about that and pause the video before maybe you jump into this before we do any more. So bacteria, as we know, are can be beneficial. And if they're in a beneficial relationship with humans, we say that they are mutualistic. There are benefits as well to general society. So, for example, bacteria are responsible for the production of yogurts and cheeses, which we consume off the market shelves. They are also responsible for, I suppose, other things as well. Like in Ireland, we have a huge agriculture sector, and without bacteria, it would not be possible to have silage. Silage is, of course, grass that has been converted into sugars. And this is used to feed animals over the winter. So, bacteria therefore have a lot of benefits for us in society in terms of food production, because then we can keep cows, which will produce milk for us over the winter, rather than having to, I suppose, we'd have no food for cows otherwise. Harmful effects, then, of course, we often get sick from bacteria, and they cause things like food spoilage. So, if you look here at this slide here, and you can pause it if you'd like to read a little bit more. But bacteria, we know, are involved in, like, for example, tooth decay. So if you are not using, if you're not brushing your teeth very often, it means that bacteria can actually thrive in your gums, and they will continue to reproduce and reproduce. So why we put in toothpaste is because it changes the pH and means that the bacteria cannot survive well inside there. They cause diseases like, for example, normal head colds would be generally associated with bacteria. Streptococcus is an example of a bacteria that causes sore throats, as we know. Generally, they cause head colds and things like that. Remember, the flu, of course, though, is associated with viruses. Any type of Salmonella, E. coli that cause food poisoning, of course, are obviously harmful as well. But we have to weigh up the benefits and the disadvantages of them, because overall bacteria are great. They really do help us produce such a wide variety of products. And I suppose it's just be aware that not everything about bacteria is bad. So this is highlighted here in terms of the mutualistic and commensal relationships. The mutualistic in terms of bacteria that where both organisms benefit. So what the organism that they live in or live on, and they themselves. The commensal relationship where they don't harm their host. The parasitic relationship is the one that we need to concern ourselves with, because sometimes those parasitic relationships often mean that the bacteria causes harm, and they may even be disease causing. So some bacteria are pathogens, and I'm sure you've heard pathogens a lot, because COVID-19 is a virus which is pathogenic. It causes severe disease of the lung. So, when we're talking about bacterial diseases, you could be talking about things like TB, which is Bacillus typhoid. Okay, Bacillus typhoid was a disease caused by a bacteria that affected lungs back in the 20th century, the early 20th century. It was very widespread. And this caused, I suppose, perfectly healthy people that their lungs weren't functioning properly. It's a little bit similar actually to COVID-19. But we developed an antibiotic for it, and a vaccine as well incidentally was developed. There's other things as well, like cholera, tetanus, typhoid fever. All of these were diseases caused by bacteria in the past. it's actually very interesting when we think about disease overall and look at the, I suppose, the major diseases of the world in times gone by. Like, for example, the Black Death. The Black Death in Europe wiped out maybe 20% of the European populations. And imagine if you lived in a village or town where 20% of the people just disappeared, they died as a result of the Black Death. That was caused by a bacteria. And uh, again, like, so bacteria can be just as harmful as viruses. In fact, sometimes in history, they have caused an awful lot more deaths. So you have to be aware here that just many bacteria out there as well are pathogenic, and we have to be careful. They can affect humans. So therefore, it'd be a good idea if we develop lots of antibiotics that would kill these bacteria. And I'll be showing you a video here on Google Classroom shortly. I'll put it up there so you can look at it, about how bacteria affect, or how antibiotics affect bacteria. But the one thing to note here in terms of a definition for antibiotics, we say it's antibiotics, so anti meaning against, and biotics meaning living things. So antibiotics are actually chemicals that are produced by microorganisms themselves, and they themselves are toxic to bacteria. You could say that they kill or slow the growth of other bacteria. Why do bacteria produce antibiotics? Well, there's an awful lot of competition between bacteria. Bacteria have to fight to survive, to compete for basic resources like, for example, space, food, water, all of those things that you normally associate with other organisms, bacteria have to compete for as well. So how do they do it? They release these antibiotics, which will kill other bacteria, and that then the bacteria that has released the antibiotic should survive better. That's naturally in the evolution of bacteria, how antibiotics have come to be. But of course, bacteria themselves, if they are fighting against other bacteria, they have to have some sort of antibiotic resistance developed themselves. So inside in the bacteria, you might recall, if you have your diagram of the bacteria in front of you, that there's a plasmid, and the plasmid is involved in antibiotic resistance. Okay? So how exactly do these antibiotics work? Well, the antibiotic is, as we know, is produced by a bacterial cell, and it is released into the environment around it. This will kill many other bacteria, especially immature bacteria. It'll slow the growth. So what we have is, in often times when we'll be looking at one of these at later stages, called an agar plate. This is a bacterial cell, a bunch of bacterial cells here, and around these bacteria we have the what we call the zone of inhibition. And this area here basically means that antibiotics have been released and they've stopped other bacteria from, I suppose, colonizing the agar plate. So these bacteria, these antibiotics will only work on bacteria. They will not kill other organisms. Like, they will not kill, for example, viruses. So antibiotics, when you go to a doctor and you're down with the flu or you're down with some sort of viral disease, antibiotics will have no effect. All they can do is alleviate the symptoms. They can give you something for pain killing. They can give you something for, like, the horrible effects of the flu, but it will not actually defeat the virus. They will only defeat a bacteria. So how antibiotics work is that they work on, say for instance now, bacteria have invaded your body. So they've gotten into your body, either you've inhaled them, they were out in the air around you, they have gotten into a wound, or maybe you actually just ingested them, you've eaten food that had bacteria on it. Well, then what you would have to do then is you would have to take antibiotics if you had a very bad antibiotic disease. So what the antibiotics do is they will kill bacteria in the body, and they will try to kill as many of the population of harmful bacteria that have entered your body. Often a problem with that, though, is sometimes they actually kill the good bacteria too. So what it does then is it reduces the number of bacteria present in the body. It will kill them over a number of days. And you're trying to kill enough of those bacteria that until such time as the bacterial population in your body is so small that the immune system can finish the job. Okay, so the immune system is there. There's white blood cells there which will go around killing bacteria, either eating them or releasing antibodies. And that will kill the bacteria. So the idea is that you should complete your course of medication if you're getting antibiotics. So if I'm prescribed to have medication like antibiotics for 5 days, it's absolutely essential that I complete my course of medication and make sure I've taken my antibiotics for those full 5 days, even if I feel better after three. The reason for that is because if you have not killed enough of the bacteria, the immune system will take time to finish off the job. What could happen is two things. The first thing that could happen is that the bacterial population could increase and the harmful disease or ailment could come back. And the second thing that could happen is that you're helping these bacteria you're helping them mutate and develop antibiotic resistance to the antibiotic that was given. So, antibiotic resistance is a massive problem in the world around us that people, in particularly in the America where you can get things over the shelf, are causing. There's complete misuse of antibiotics, and the problem we are facing into the future is that many of the antibiotics we have today may not actually affect and control bacteria in the future. So we have to be very careful to make sure that antibiotics that are coming on stream now, that they are used properly and that they will I suppose be used for the full course of their medication, and preventing these bacteria from mutating and developing resistance. Okay. So I'm going to stop there, and your work will be posted on the Google Classroom, and I will then talk. I suppose the next thing to look at then will be the population curve of bacteria, and we'll see how they change over time. If, for example, they have a bacteria has colonized a new surface. Okay.